Welcome to Eugene Cannabis TV. We have a special guest. We have Kathy Ging. So you got DanK here, and we're going to be talking to Kathy about hemp and hemp products and the whole scene, especially the hemp and Eugene. So welcome, Kathy.
Thanks for inviting me, Dan.
You bet. I'm glad to have you here. Kathy is very active in the community, has been for years, an old friend of the Hempfest, helped us out in the first event in 2003, been a friend ever since. And there's a event coming up May 14th, and put this on your calendars because to begin with it's free, so you can't, there's no reason not to come. It's free.
That's the full moon too.
And the full moon, so get out and about, and that is on Wednesday, May 14th at 7 to 9. They'll be screening the documentary Bringing It Home, Hemp is Hope. Tell us a little bit about that. 52 minutes long.
Yeah, well, this movie, I'm really glad to see women getting into the video production field more. This was put together by two women in North Carolina, and they traveled around the world. And the movie's about 50 minutes long, and the subtitle was Hemp is Hope. So they interview, for one, they interview Steve Allen, the author of this book, which is now in the second edition, Building with Hemp. Hempbuilding.com is his website, and he's building all kinds of low, moderate, and high price houses in Ireland, and they're doing this in Europe and Israel, Japan. Everybody is doing it, and we're even doing it in this country too now, Dan.
Right, and that's Steve Allen. It's Allin spelling. So if you want to look that up, the book's Building with Hemp by Steve Allen.
It's available now for sale at Tsunami Books, by the way. Yeah.
Yes, excellent. Or you can pick up a copy and you come to see the screening of the documentary. It's a beautiful book, and I was just thumbing through it, and wow, I could see where a person could get really psyched up about building with hemp, because there's some, like I said, thumbing through here, some really neat looking stuff.
It's like psychedelic, and it's natural, kind of like indigenous materials from Native Americans, or it's like cob materials, you know.
Hemp is such an incredible plant, you know, who knew? You know, I mean, I just started out to legalize this because I was a recreational user, and now look where we're at, and it's just amazing. What an amazing plant.
Well, you know, I got into this about, maybe 20 years ago when I knew William Conde, and I've known David Sieber for 40 years. He's been a real patriot for the hemp movement for a long time. But they developed, our company developed a medium density fiber board out of industrial hemp, and we couldn't get the fiber imported from China, Poland, places like that. The federal government rejected one of our boats that had 1,100 pounds of hemp fiber and only 20 grams of leaf, but we had to send that boat back. So it was hard getting the raw material, but I was the first investor in the company. I had gotten into an accident, and my settlement, I gave them 1/3 of my check, and then they couldn't get the next leg of the money together was the problem. However, you know, Carolyn Moran was into promoting the hemp paper at the time, and then Floyd Przansky got really interested in this. And now I'm registered for a class. It's the first in the world available in English. Internationally, anybody who does the internet can get on the class, but you do have to pay for the 3 credit hours. It's through OSU Corvallis, and this class is under the wood products. Here's a couple of topics they're covering. The ancient history of hemp up to around 1812, and the modern history of hemp up to World War II, the pharmacological properties of cannabis. There's how to grow hemp, basic agronomy, and processing the plant for grain, for oil, hemp paper, fiber and textiles, paint sealers and coatings, and as you know, bioenergy from hemp too, which, Dan, I want to bring up, there's a lot more to this syllabus, by the way, and anybody age 65 or better can actually take any E-class free. You just have to register for $25, a one-time lifetime registration fee, I believe, and then you get the permission from the instructor. So there's hundreds of topics you can take online, and this one doesn't require any books or written materials, it's just all online. But I'd like to highly recommend people get this book and start learning about hemp. This book is called Hemp Bound: Dispatches from the Front Lines of the Next Agricultural Revolution. And that's what we're talking about, the next ag revolution. And he has chapters in this book called Fill Her Up with Hemp. And if you remember about 15 or 20 years ago, there was a governor candidate in the South that drove all around with hemp oil in his in his car.
And that's written by Doug Fine.
Doug Fine, yeah, he's from
Isn't he
New
out
Mexico.
of the Northwest?
No, I think he's from New Mexico, Doug
okay.
Fine is.
Uh-huh.
But another title that, this is so exciting to me because a lot of you know I've been into the renewable energy field for a long time, into organic farming and stuff like that. But it says, grow your next house or factory or office or high-rise school or school out of hemp. Heck, grow your whole tractor out of hemp. I just got an article from Canada. They've made some tractor parts out of hemp. Fill her up with hemp. And this is my favorite one. A new utility paradigm, the distributed sustainable community energy grid. And they point out that back when the oil and all that was big, millions of gallons of refineries, they actually started with much smaller individual separate, and that's how they had pictured the business being. So we can do this with oil and biodiesel and stuff out of our local crops without having to do it all from corn. So that's what's real exciting. It's a crop for all peoples, all reasons, and all seasons.
That's fantastic. And hemp is legal in Oregon.
Well, actually, it's a good point. We're one of about 12 states that have legalized industrial hemp growing, and we legalized it back in 2009. However, it wasn't legal at the federal level, so a lot of people wouldn't, go out and start planting hemp seeds. But now what happened, a lot of people don't know that the $1 trillion farm bill that just passed a few months ago includes industrial hemp is legal now to grow for those people in those states that have already legalized industrial hemp. And more states are getting on the bandwagon. One of the best websites, by the way, to get, because they're totally dedicated to nationalizing the legalization of industrial hemp, is Vote Hemp. And then another one is Hemp Industries Association. But one thing I found with this class I took at the Hilton on industrial hemp a couple of weeks ago when they were having the medical conference, they had a class on hemp too. It turns out that Oregon is not putting any hemp seeds in the ground this year, and partly because they're a little bit concerned about jeopardizing the funding for the university programs, USDA and stuff like that. However, we hope to get over that hurdle soon, and the seeds should have gone in the ground in April, is what I understand, for hemp. But one thing you should know is that Kentucky has 8 agricultural projects going, and I just saw an article, Colorado has 1,300 acres certified. And Colorado started growing industrial hemp even before the federal government had passed the Farm Bill, from what I understand. So this is kind of like a pitchfork revolution, Dan.
Yeah, wow. That's exciting. Well, I really appreciate all this information, Kathy. This is exactly what we need, is more hemp information. And I've got the Hempfest coming up, the 18th of July, 18th to the 21st, so we'll hope to have a whole bunch more stuff there.
Yeah, and another thing is, a lot of you might want to know that the Emperor Wears No Clothes book, which is the granddaddy. In fact, Steve Allen mentions it. Everybody who writes mentions and many people mention David Sieber too, of course, and William Condy. But I want to say that this book, here is probably the cheapest book to get you started. We have it for $12. We have 25 copies of Tsunami book. And then this one here, The Building with Hemp, is $45. This is one of my favorite books too. It's called Hemp Husbandry, and it quotes the anonymous hemp farmer from Annapolis, and it quotes Washington and Jefferson. A lot of our presidents and the early founders of our country were growing hemp. And back to the Jack Herer. Jack Herer's book, The Emperor Wears No Clothes, is now free online. It's jackherer.com. So that's something that people would want to know, because that's kind of your primer. And a couple other things I want to mention. The reason I sort of got interested in this recently is I read this second edition of the book cover to cover. So exciting, but they're using hemp like they're using fiberglass bats. You've seen them. Well, hemp can make fiberglass type bats, and fiberglass has a problem with it. Gets stuck in your throat, it can cause health issues and all that. But hemp also does not get compacted, so you can make hemp cellulose insulation by adding borate or boric acid, just like they do with the tree fiber. And so you can use it as insulation, but you can use it inside instead of drywall. You can use it as plaster, and then you don't even really have to paint it, but if you want to, you can paint it with a natural paint, and then you can use it outside like stucco. And then you can even use it for tile and for brick, and they have sinks and shower stalls made of hemp, and they have a special waterproof coating they put over it. that can make the the thing waterproof and all. So then they're making a low-income apartment building in England out of hemp. That's what really was exciting to me, and I sent the article to St. Vincent de Paul, hoping that he'll jump on the bandwagon because he's always a forerunner of a lot of things. And now this movie, bringingithomemovie.com, that will be playing at Tsunami Books next Wednesday at the full moon on May 14th at 7 p.m., 2585 Willamette Street, Eugene. This movie does talk about the Steve Allen's construction techniques and stuff too. And it turns out that there was a house built in North Carolina, the first in the country of U.S. The house was built because the man had a child who was environmentally sensitive. It's called environmental illness or multiple chemical sensitivity. So he searched worldwide for the best products to use to build a house for his child. And he found the hemp was the best products. Not only is it fireproof, this hempcrete, or Madame Perrier and her husband in France called it the isochandra, the herds of hemp. To explain, the herds of the hemp is the leftover product that they were throwing in the dumps in Europe, and now they're building houses out of it. Madame Perrier was doing that for years, but they tweaked the formula in Britain, they tweaked it in Ireland. There's a hemp house in Japan that's 300 years old, and in the movie, stuff online, bringingithomemovie.com, they say that a hemp house can last up to 700 years. Not only is it fireproof, the hempcrete, it's also rodent-proof and termite-proof. And when you think that half of the world has termites, so you can't grow, you can't use wood for a lot of places in Hawaii and south of the border. But on top of that, you can grow a hemp house, I believe it's like 2.5 acres, 4.5 months, you can grow a 1,250 square foot hemp house. And it sequesters more carbon dioxide, so it prevents greenhouse warming and helps the global climate environment even more than planting trees at this point. So we can do this with the hemp, and it's cooler in the summer and it's warmer in the winter. And so the hemp material actually breathes. And the final thing I'll say about the hemp thing is that they're also building 150,000 square foot hemp bale commercial buildings. So I was thinking, wow, let's start doing that here. Let's get some of these bales of hemp. Hemp for victory, hemp for rope.
Yeah, definitely. There's a film called Hemp Hooray that I've seen that's really good too.
Oh, no, I didn't know. No, I've ordered a couple new films though, so maybe that's one of the ones.
Yeah. This one I had a copy of it and loaned it out, and I forgot who to, and of course it's gone now. But well, definitely, Kathy, we appreciate you coming up. And again, now that is May 14th at 7 p.m. It's Tsunami Books. I get it pronounced right?
It's Tsunami. Like the wave tsunami. Yeah.
Tsunami. There you go.
In South Eugene. Yeah.
Books. That's at 2585 Willamette Street. So that's definitely, and it's free. So come on down and get educated on hemp.
One last thing I'll say is I am on the Oregon Tilth Advisory Committee. I've been on it for about a year, and I'm trying to encourage them not only to eventually get into certifying organic hemp when it becomes more legal, but also marijuana. Yeah.
Very good. Excellent. Appreciate it, Kathy. We'll talk to you next time, and we'll be back with the next segment.
Grandpa's got glaucoma, now he's on the witness stand, 'cause he lives in Oklahoma, where medical use is banned. He tried some marijuana, doctor said he wouldn't tell, but that doc turned Grandpa in, now he's in this prison cell. Should have gone to Normal, that's NORML, normal.org, right from your Dell. They fight the marijuana laws, both federal and state. Just enter in your email, they'll keep you up to date.
Engage with edibles.
Very true. So we got to wrap up. We appreciate it. This is the end of this show, and see us next week. We'll be here. Interesting things coming up, the news items, both in the state and out of the state. I wanted to talk about the 2014 Global Marijuana March that was last weekend. That was May 5th. What I like to say is we had 11 speakers, maybe about the same number of attendees.
Yeah, sadly enough.
It was really pathetic, the turnout. Where was everybody? I mean,
it seems like the weather was a factor, because it said it was supposed to rain, then it didn't rain till it was almost over.
That's probably part of it. There was also game day, which might be part of it too. But in the last few years, we didn't have much of a turnout, and it's kind of discouraging because we have so much support for legalization. Supposedly, a lot of people talk about it, but when it comes to putting their feet to the ground, I had some mechanical problems with my truck, so it cost me a couple of days prior to the event, so I was a little bit behind on getting things prepared. But all in all, it came off pretty much on time. We always need more help in getting posters and flyers distributed, and a little bit disorganized on the march. I still need to find somebody that can lead a march. But
yeah, it seemed like we had several little marches this time.
Yeah.
People kind of went on their own.
Yeah, and it's kind of discouraging. You can't get the help you need. It's the biggest. The thing I wrote here was the biggest overall problem is apathy. It seems like you're trying to get people to show up to these events and they don't show up, and it just seems like it's apathy. And I got to think about the word apathy, so I looked it up in the Merriam-Webster dictionary. And apathy is a lack of feeling or emotion. Impassiveness, a lack of interest or concern, indifference. And then notice the common word here again, lack. The word lack was in both of those definitions. So I looked up lack. Lack is to not have something, to not have enough of something. So anyway, it's just kind of discouraging. Back when we first started 15 years ago, we were meeting weekly. We had 25 or 30 people an evening show up. And yet it seems over the years that we just can't get the support. I don't know why. I don't know. So it starts a whole new discussion. So why is there little support for legalization? Why should some out-of-state millionaire have to give us money to fix our problem? I don't understand it. I do appreciate that these people do and have done for our cause, but why can't we help ourselves? I believe in part it's medical marijuana and greed is part of the answer, part of the problem, part of the answer. I'm not bad-mouthing medical marijuana or patients. I couldn't support it more. But the fact remains is that it's medical marijuana. It has made it semi-legal, so people don't want to spend the time and the money to make it legal, I believe. So anyway, it's just a frustrating thing. We're going to do an article in a minute about the medical marijuana dispensary ban up to 150 cities and county governments. The good part of this, there's one good part about this that a lot of people haven't thought of. The good part is that non-supporters of the legislators that are non-supporters of medical marijuana have shown themselves by their votes on this issue. So now we know who they are. So
And we have a list of people not to vote for.
exactly, and also who to vote out of office and who to replace. So that's the good news, and we're working on that list. If you want to help out with that, let us know. Send an email to dankbagman@hotmail.com. Real easy to do. And then we've got this website that I've talked about before, and growers2patients.net. This is a resource for patients that need medicine, and it hasn't been used a whole lot, but I don't believe that it's been promoted that much either. In fact, I'm guilty of myself of not promoting it enough, and plus I got around to using it myself because I'm looking for two patients. And by the way, I meant to mention that, looking for 2 patients to grow for this season. The only requirement is I need patients that can supply their own medicine until the crop comes in. I can't supply medicine until the crop comes in, then you'll get a year's worth. So anyway, that's so if you know a grower looking for patients or patients looking for growers, this is a website to go to. No charge, growers2patients.net. So that's the word growers, plural, the number 2, and then patients, plural.net. So it's there and use it. So anyway, Jeremy, you want to tell?
More than 150 Oregon counties, cities and counties banned medical marijuana dispensaries. Local governments in Oregon had until Thursday to enact a 1-year moratorium on medical marijuana dispensaries. More than 150 cities and counties in Oregon have already taken advantage of the ability to ban them. One city sued the state because they want to ban medical marijuana dispensaries in their jurisdiction permanently, which is just a disgrace because it just makes it that much harder for the patients to find their medicine. Cave Junction officials said they should have the right to permanently ban pot stores. There's that word again, pot stores. They're not pot stores, they're medical marijuana dispensaries. They're like a pharmacy. Since marijuana remains illegal under federal law, they filed a lawsuit in state court Wednesday. Medical marijuana advocates have cringed at the bans, but they point out that storefront operations are allowed in the state's largest cities, including Portland and Eugene. Leland Berger, an attorney who advises marijuana businesses, says towns that ban dispensaries will simply drive medical marijuana patients to illegal dealers. It means that patients who don't have the wherewithal to go to a place where they can have safe access to medicine. It means that they'll get it from the underground market where it's not tested and it's not regulated. The state has granted more than 70 dispensary licenses. Oregon lawmakers could decide next year whether to extend the moratoriums or to allow them to expire.
Yes, and that moratorium, to me, as far as I'm concerned, is a disgusting thing. That was a House Bill 1531. It's a disgusting thing for the legislature to do. Not surprising, considering a lot of things that they do, but disgusting nonetheless. To permit the cities to come up with, to impose a ban or a moratorium, to simply open the gate for people to show their prejudices against medical marijuana patients and their medicine.
Yes, that's plain canna bigotry. They're showing their racism against patients who decide to take a natural substance instead of a harmful drug.
Yeah, that was a word that came up at our Global Marijuana March, and I love it. It's a great word. Canna bigotry. I'll be using that a lot in the near future and the distant future, because that's what a lot of is happening is canna bigotry. You hear these cities and these counties talk about medical marijuana dispensaries. Like I said when I testified at the city of Lowell City Council, I said, we're not talking about a village of lepers, you know. We're talking about a medical marijuana dispensary where people can, with the card, can pick up their marijuana. There's not going to be any crime involved because nobody's going to be hanging around because they can't get in unless they have a card. So it's just ridiculous. But yet I believe the law is working as it intended. It's allowed people to be prejudiced against the medicine and caused a lot of hardship. But thank heaven for the few communities that stood up and did the right thing. For instance, Springfield. Springfield did a great job. I think what Cottage
Grove defeated their moratorium.
And and I think
I
Manila
believe
did.
the mayor was
Lane
one
County.
of the ones that was against it.
Yeah. So there's some cities out there that really had the guts to stand up and do the right thing, and kudos to them. And onions to the ones that shows what they think of medical marijuana patients. But we'll delve into that more and to them more in the future. But let's jump into another interesting point coming up. This is out of Colorado. Now, having two states that are legalized, and yet they're different programs, it's interesting that we can look back and compare the different programs. So this is in Colorado. Deaths spark an effort to rewrite marijuana rules in Colorado. This is the CBS News, and it was on the cannabuy.com, blog.cannabuy.com. Colorado is rethinking the rules for pot-infused food after 2 recent deaths. A voter-approved ballot measure legalized recreational marijuana use in January. Colorado's Marijuana Enforcement Division meets Wednesday with lawmakers and edible pot producers to discuss how much THC could be in a serving size. THC is the active ingredient in marijuana. Concern about regulation of so-called edibles comes in the wake of 2 high-profile deaths linked to the products. Edible marijuana comes in many forms, but labs that test the products say it's hard to know exactly what kind of buzz to expect. Joseph Evans, a Steep Hill Hallett, a cannabis testing laboratory, said Do you know if your marijuana is safe that you're buying? You really don't. Jennifer Murray of CannaLab said, I think that there's been a misconception that all of this stuff has been tested, but it hasn't. Last month, a 19-year-old student jumped to his death off a Denver hotel balcony after friends said he ate a single marijuana cookie. Tests showed it was the strength of 6 high-quality joints.
But they're also leaving out the fact that he was said to be drinking alcohol as well.
Yeah, conveniently left the fact out. And the autopsy report says marijuana intoxication was a significant contributing factor. In another case, just this month, a woman called 911 saying her husband had eaten pot, candy, and was hallucinating. Denver authorities say he shot and killed her before police could get there.
Now, if he was hallucinating, that candy had more than just pot in it.
Right. It's unclear if edible pot is to blame, but this week the state will begin mandatory testing for potency. State lawmakers are also calling for new labeling rules to make sure users know what they're putting into their bodies and how it works.
I agree that they should test everything and they should have it clearly labeled. That is a long stretch to say that these deaths are linked to cannabis use.
Yep.
Cannabis didn't kill them, their stupid actions killed them.
Yeah. Colorado State Representative Jonathan Singer was one of the only state legislatures to endorse legalized recreational marijuana back in 2012. He said, what a lot of people do is they'll make a bite of a brownie, and maybe that's a serving, and they don't feel anything. So they'll take another bite, and all of a sudden, you've got an overdose situation. Singer wants to make sure it's regulated properly, the same as alcohol and prescription drugs. So yes, that is one problem with edibles. You have to be careful and know your medicine and sneak up on it slowly. Don't take a whole bunch and then think you're not, and then eating more.
Yeah, that is true.
Anyway,
it is hard to gauge with edibles.
Very true. So we got to wrap up. We appreciate it. This is the end of this show, and see us next week. We'll be here.